Hello, I am Luke McDonough. I am the apartment guy.
Hello everyone, I am Zach and I'm still talking about condos.
So we're back today. Today we're going to be talking about renting and buying. I think the first most important thing to do is in our first video we didn't really explain what the difference in our jobs is.
Right.
I work specifically in leasing at DRG, and Zach works in buying. Helps people purchase homes and sell their homes. So when basically DRG, should we talk about what DRG is, how it started? And
Yeah, that might be a good stage setter. So DRG, the way we're set up, because you think of a stereotypical real estate brokerage, right? You walk in the door, you're either buying a home or selling a home. That's how most brokerages are set up. What makes DRG unique is what Luke literally just talked about. We have different divisions. So Luke is kind of the head honcho or the big dog in the leasing division. So he'll work with people navigating apartments, condos, townhomes, single families, whatever they're looking for. And then at the same time, I work on the buy-sell side. So in a perfect world, what'll happen is someone will come in, right?
Wait, hold on. Let's back up. So the reason that started is DRG as brokerage didn't start until 2007. And obviously that was kind of a tough time to start a brokerage. So they weren't selling many homes. People weren't buying many homes at that time. So they started working with renters. And this was obviously before Zach and I, Zach was like 4 years old and
I actually just learned how to ride a bike that year, so it was a really big year for me.
So they started working with renters to build clientele, and it became a business in itself. We started listing condos for rent, getting people in condos who wanted to rent them, and then through that, apartments started to reach out to us, and we started to help apartments find people to place in their buildings.
Right.
So that's kind of how that all started.
Well, to caveat off that too, because Luke will always gravitate more to rentals, always gravitate to like the buy-sell side of things. Another reason why in 2007, 2008, we started working with more renters is, let's say Luke owned a condo and Luke came to me because he's like, Zach, you know this area, you're a great agent, you're going to be proactive, and the unit just doesn't sell, right? It's 2008. Not a lot of people are spending a couple $100,000 on a condo. But the issue we ran into is, while Luke was trying to sell his condo, all of his neighbors were trying to sell theirs too. So generally, if a condo building has 100 units and let's say 15 of them are trying to be sold in 1 year, generally the owners start to play a little game of who can drop the price the lowest. So what we started doing was we'd essentially go in, sit down with these owners and be like, hey, we want to sell your condo. That's our end goal because we know that's your goal, but we can't do it right now. So we started the rental division essentially to help get them to a better time to sell. So we'd list the condo for rent. Luke and his team would do a great job finding a qualified renter with the whole goal. Renter comes in, gets to try out the condo for a year or two. Maybe they buy or maybe they move again. And then our seller gets positioned to sell at a better time. So maybe not when there's a recession going on. So that's something I just wanted to add, but
Sure.
Yeah.
So people will come in to, we'll talk about people who are looking to rent versus buy, looking to buy versus rent, in terms of what kind of, again, when we were speaking about apartments versus condos and renting versus buying, same thing. It's all about what your current situation is in terms of why you would either rent or why you would either purchase. I think, Zach's on the buying side. He also owns a condo right now. I am still renting, so that's another differentiation. Why am I still renting? Why has Zach decided to purchase?
Right.
So I'm still renting because I haven't figured out where I want to live, first of all, where I want to buy. But in terms of money, I had saved some up and then I decided to invest it rather than purchase a home at that time. And it's just kind of more situational. When should someone look to purchase a home, do you think?
Yeah, good question. To answer that, there's no perfect, you turn 27, boom, you need to buy. I don't think that's how it works. Similar to you, kind of my situation and the epiphany I had last year, because that's when I purchased my condo here in North Loop. Prior to that, I was big in stocks, crypto. I mean, if you worked in our office, you knew I was the guy walking around telling everyone to buy Visa if it went down, 0.002 or anything like that. So Luke knows because I'd go to his office all the time and try to get him.
I lost a lot of money because of that.
Yeah, and when all that happened, I had a few investments that didn't pan out, and I remember one night I had this epiphany, and I was like, Zach, you do residential real estate in North Loop. Why don't you own a condo in North Loop? And in my head, the way I thought about it was I was like, yes, if I close on this condo, my monthly mortgage or rent, right, will go up slightly. But now every year, opposed to that money just being thrown out the door, whether it be $1,000, $2,000, now it's going towards a mortgage, right? So even though I have less money each month to spend on investments, in a way now I'm investing in the home itself. So that's kind of why I made my decision. I also just look at North Loop, where we live, where our office is, Twins game day, there's hundreds, thousands of people walking around. There's bars, restaurants. I like the area, so I'm bullish on it. But I kind of just viewed it more as an investment. That's why I did it. But I guess to go off your point.
So I think in terms of renting, building equity in your home is obviously a great reason to purchase. I think there's a lot of times where I work with people who are just moving into town. So a lot of times they don't want to purchase right away because maybe they haven't ever lived in Minneapolis. So they want to get an experience of the different neighborhoods. If they plan to stay here, where should they buy? What's a good spot for them to purchase? And where would they spend most of their time? So I think that's a big reason why you wouldn't purchase right away. Also, if you don't know where you're going to be in 3 to 5 years, when would you say is... I guess when I tell people if they plan to be moving or they expect to not live in Minneapolis or Minnesota within the next 3 years, like if they plan to move by that time, it might not be the best idea to purchase unless you are okay turning that into investment property because of closing costs and everything. Yeah. It might not be financially wise to make that decision. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and I think what a lot of brokerages say is the 7-year rule. So if you plan on living there 7 years, it'll balance out. And the reason we say 7 years is in Minnesota, the great thing about buying is you don't pay to work with someone like me, right? So let's say you're like, hey, I'm thinking about buying. I have a question for Zach. You call me. I'm not like an attorney where I'm going to say, hey, this call, you owe me $150. And then if we meet, you owe another this. And if you buy a home, you have to promise me your firstborn son or something crazy like that. In Minnesota, you do not pay to work with an agent. But when you sell, generally in Minneapolis, you pay 6%. That's kind of standard in our market. So I feel that 7 years, that's going to be kind of the point where your property's appreciated enough, where if you sell it, hopefully, you've gained that 6% so you can at least wash. But that would probably be the number I would look for, is that 7 years. Now, obviously, there's areas like, for example, North Loop. You bought in North Loop 15 years ago. Yeah, you made some money, right? Because it went up. So I think a big thing in buying too is just identifying the areas that you think over the next 5-10 years will be on an upward trend.
And I think working with someone like Zach to identify those areas, or me, maybe you're like, yeah, I do want to move in 3 years. I want to make an investment property. Is this a good space that I would be able to rent out easily? I'd be able to give advice about that location, about that specific building. And I think another thing to your point, you don't need to pay you for your assistance. That's the same thing with me. Helping people lease units is find a new spot. It's free. A lot of times people will call us, ask for a place, or ask for about a specific property. I'll say we have more that I can show them, and then they'll expect that there's some sort of fee to it. Mm-hmm. That's not the case. We work on behalf of the owners and apartment buildings who are trying to rent out their units. So it's at no cost. Our service is at no cost to the people who are looking for a space.
Yeah, and I think the reason Luke and I keep reiterating that is over the years of us doing this, at least on the buy-sell side, and even rentals, I feel like a lot of people don't understand how little money they need sometimes to buy and to rent. So when you come, meet with whoever you're working with or reach out to us, explain what your goals are so we can make that roadmap. Because a lot of the times, especially on the buy-sell side, I'll get people that will call in, they'll be like, hey, we want to buy in a month. I'll be like, where were you a year ago? right? Or where were you 6 months ago? And the reason for that is when you're buying, you want to be as calculated as possible, right? So you want to be pre-approved. You want to know the areas you're looking at. You want to know the buildings you like or the zip code you want for your home. So I always tell people it's never too soon to reach out. Just set expectations on where you're at. Because even when I purchased my space, I do this for a living. I still had questions for other agents at our office about what to expect in the throughout the process of doing this. So I would say the biggest advice I can give, whether you're renting or buying, is reach out, start the conversation, because you might be surprised that, hey, maybe I can buy right now, or maybe there's some really good deals at apartments I can rent. So that's where I would start.
Yeah.
For sure. So that's gonna be rent versus buy. Anything else we're missing, I guess?
I think that's good for this one.
Awesome. Well, again, I'm Zach. This is Luke.
I'm Luke, the apartment guy.
Yeah, and I'm Condos.
And this is Mpls Livin. Thank you very much.
See ya.